what's up everybody? It's Lyds, and we're back to break some more thrones, and last time we successfully took down the Nilfgaardian caravan, and, well, we did kind of sort of pick up some slaves in the process. We set them free, if I remember correctly, and, well, we are not as much of a dictator as sometimes we've seemed to be. We did, of course, also pick up some items that we want to take a look at. We also have some additional things to check out at our camp. We've started to accumulate a little bit more resources, and we made a few more long-term upgrades, but it looks like from everything we've seen, everything that I've heard from you guys, that we're going to find that to be one of the key challenges in this area. There's just not going to be a lot of resources to go around. So we'll continue on here. We'll check out what else we can do in these areas here. But if we're taking a look at our map, we will, of course, at least eventually head back to do this battle here. And there was that exchange we can make for, what was it, like, spend a little bit of coins and get some wood in exchange, and we may now be able to afford that. I forget exactly how much that was going to cost. Might have been 200 coins, which we could now do. But I was thinking we'd progress a little bit further in this direction here. Not sure we're going to make it all the way over to the main quest update here. Probably not, unless we have something that's going to, teleport us over there as soon as we take a few steps in this direction, which, I don't know, maybe that's the case. We will, of course, eventually, as I've been saying in the past, make a point of heading back over here. It's just that I'd like to make the point of getting a little bit stronger before we do so, and we're getting closer. We're getting closer. So, with that being said, let's take a look at what these other things we have are. We have a new report, it seems, Nilfgaardian letter. Translation from Nilfgaardian. Who do we have who can translate from Nilfgaardian? I'm not sure if we... I don't know. But, to Senior Censor Berwin Ep Clenage. From Sergeant Dilwen N. Ellery. As ordered, I have acquired 30 live Nordlings. Presumably those are the slaves that we just freed after attacking that caravan. Edirnian provenance, breakdown as follows. 13 males, 7 females, 5 elders, 5 children. Suitability of elders for labor will be determined at camp. If the verdict is negative, they shall be removed from the convoy. I think we know what that means. Well, either abandoned. I'll probably just abandon altogether and left for dead. But, potentially just outright murdered. But, these are the people that we saved, definitely. But, and we had some questions as to what the long-term results of that would be, because Meve was talking about how her anticipation was that, that would mean, or at least it might have been, it's actually Gascon, I think, who was saying that that would mean we have additional mouths to feed. So, as for whether that will come back to bite us at all, that remains to be seen. Whoa. Not sure who or what that is. Is that a banshee of some variety? Looks like she's sort of flying. Also, that's a rat. Does not appear as though we can interact with the rat in any way, unfortunately. Hey, you'll catch the plague. Well, maybe. Also, almost missed this. I mean, honestly, any source at all of resources that we can get our hands on going to be very, very helpful. I guess that? I don't think that is resources. No. Okay. Because, yeah, it does look like it's going to be very hard to come by that stuff, and it may even be that the numbers we're getting when we do click on them is significantly lower than what we saw in our previous area. Might even be an order of magnitude less. The fact that the game is saving does make me a little bit nervous, but alas, here goes nothing. That's a Nilfgaardian flag, as is that. That's probably not a good sign. But there is a little more wood. I do wonder, as I was saying before with the whole, like, maybe when we go over here, we're going to get transported halfway across the world. Possible. Oh, actually, before we head over here, looks like we may want to head over in this direction. So it looks like we could do that. Because, yeah, what I'm concerned about is potentially hitting some kind of point of no return, or at least making it such that we would not be able to double back and do some of these other things that we've been talking about how we want to make a point of doing at some point. But, yeah, if we can... Oh, can we go over this way? No, it looks like we would need to go through here in order to do that. Maybe before actually heading over to that question mark over there, see if there's any more resources we can pick up first. I mean, there's definitely more people here. And more resources as well. Yeah, it looks like any side we enter from, or at least attempt to enter from, we'll run into that encounter. But now we know a few more things. Like, I assume this is functionally the same point of interest. But other than that, we learned about a new battle here, a new puzzle here. We, of course, had already discovered this battle in this golden chest. Yeah, it looks like in order to get there, like this, I was basically trying to cut through this way, but it looks like in order to get over there, we need to go through town and make that happen. Okay, so what I'm wondering is maybe we quickly double back to this spot to just do that exchange before we do any of this stuff. I imagine we'll still be able to go back to that on a later occasion, but just in case. I don't think it's a huge bargain, the deal that guy was giving us. It was, what, like, pay 200 coins for 300 or maybe 400 wood, which, I mean, said this many times before, but the exact exchange rate between the different resources, you know, how much wood is worth 1 coin, how many recruits can you get from 1 coin, so on and so forth. We've started to get a little bit of a better sense of that as time has gone on. Of course, we've certainly seen that recruits are much harder to come by than the other resources. But, let's see, our dude in question, or dudette? This person? I think it was this person. Oh! Majesty, traveling merchant has humbly invited you to browse his wares. He wishes to be rid of his stock as soon as possible. He is prepared to offer a sizable discount. Supposedly, this 160 wood for 500 coins is a good deal. Doesn't look like it, if I'm being honest. Because, I mean, at least right now, I don't know. It seems like that's not a great exchange rate unless specifically in this area, wood is going to be the hardest resource, or maybe coins are not that hard to come by in this area relative to wood. Maybe wood is significantly more challenging in this area relative to Lyria. Maybe the case. Maybe a little bit too early to say definitively on that. It just, at the moment, looks like everything is hard to come by. We can't afford this, though. So, I thought maybe it was 200, but no, it's actually 500. We could do this one to sell wood for crowns. I mean, if we... It is definitely a worse exchange rate in that case. You know, rather than having, you know, if this were the same rate, we'd expect to get over 500 crowns for our 200 wood, but that's obviously not what's happening here. So, I think we do pass for the time being. We are very close to being able to do that. But, yeah, and also that, I'm pretty sure, is the area where we were seeing that we would get that shrine, but we're deliberately planning on saving that for the battle back in that direction that we were having some trouble with, just to make it a little more feasible. Although, by all accounts, it looks like the area where we were looking to go, and probably will proceed to go now, that could be a difficult encounter as well, because it looks like this could be a large city that Nilfgaard has taken over, and those, at least in the past, have certainly been some of the more significant, more difficult encounters. So, well, maybe before we head in there again, we'll just do a little more browsing around the village, because, like, we can pick up that wood, or really anything else in preparation for that fight that might help us.
Gatberg opened its gates to the Black Lads, surrendered without a fight.
That's not cool. Did somebody tell them that they shouldn't have done that? Because they shouldn't have done that. Okay, this person also apparently has something of interest for us to do. There's a good example. 16 wood? That has to be significantly less than what we were getting in the past. Let's see. My queen, the inhabitants of this dwelling have given shelter to a wounded Nilfgaardian. Excuse me? The landlord said he found him in a field, bleeding and raving deliriously. He decided he couldn't leave the man in such a sorry state, so he invited him into his home. Our soldiers are outraged, understandably. They say we must finish off our enemies, not give them new life. And right they are, remove the Nilfgaardian from this hovel, then remove his head from his body, so we can decapitate him, give ourselves high morale. Could be helpful, as we were just saying, for this upcoming encounter that we're expecting to be rather large. Say, moved by the host's noble gesture, offer this man a small gift of coin as a reward for his generosity. Okay, this feels like a trick question. Or we can just walk away. This really feels like a trick question. The simple answer is to say, sure, don't really have to pay anything for this, we get high morale. Is it the morally wrong thing to do? Potentially, yeah. Here's the thing that gets me a little bit caught up about this, and, maybe I'm overthinking this, I certainly could be, but it just seems strange that we would have to pay 100 coins to then lower our morale. It's a double negative, a double penalty. So that feels like there must be something else to this that might give you some additional reason to take it. Like, is there some future event down the line that will help us if we actually spare this guy? And for that reason, it's actually worth it to spend those coins and take that hit to our morale? Maybe? I mean, the other thing would just be that, it's perhaps morally the quote-unquote correct thing to do. So in that sense, you're paying coins and losing morale in order to be the good guy. So I don't know. This one is strange. This is certainly the easy answer, but I feel like it feels like a trap. It feels like this is gonna come back to haunt us on a future occasion if we do this. So makes me a little nervous to take it, but I think given how we don't know what the potential long-term consequences of this might be, I think we have to act on the information that we have here, and the information we know is that this helps us short-term, this does not. Long-term, we have no idea, so I think we go for this. Even if it does mean we are heading a little bit back more into dictator territory, but hey, this isn't even our territory. I like how, as we go further this way, the entire map starts to get redder. Like, obviously there's flames, but, just the whole map gets this red hue to it. Okay. If we go here, that gives us a fast travel spot. There is additional loot there. Before we go too far in this direction, though, I think we probably should go check out this point of interest now. We picked up a little bit more resources. We nab this real quick. And, I don't think we've yet checked. Did we check what was new at our camp? Or maybe it was just that our camp was basically telling us to go check the note that we read from our inventory. That's probably it, because we did read that thing from our inventory, and now we're no longer getting a notification telling us to take a look at our camp. I feel like maybe if we got to 500 coins, we could make that purchase back from that other tradesperson that we were talking to previously. But the other thing would be that we could potentially see if there are any upgrades we could pick up that might cost us 500 coins as well. Okay, I am going to do the opposite of what I said.
Just a wait past. That was a mill. An inn. Out more than ashes now.
And of the people, not a trace. Not even the bodies.
Yeah, so I'm going to be a hypocrite. I'm going to go at least a little bit further just to pick this up, but as Rayla and Reynard were saying, that's painful. Alright, so now we could potentially afford that exchange. Can we go through this? No, I don't think so. We can't cross this bridge, I assume. Is there even reason to believe that might be an accessible area? I kind of doubt it. But, so yeah, we could potentially go back and make this exchange now. Before we consider doing that, let's take a quick look at our camp and see if there are any upgrades that we can now afford now that we have reached 500 coins, because it's possible. Let's see, we're mostly looking at the workshop, right? And were there any things in particular that we wanted to see? Number of trinkets. We can't afford it, nor do I think that's something that would be top priority. Can't afford this. Yeah, pretty much just exclusively looking at, can we afford anything right now? First and foremost. Then, if we can talk about, is it worth spending those coins? Because at the moment, it's not looking like we can afford anything at all. We cannot. So, that's a non-factor. No upgrades we can afford. In which case, do we go back to buy the wood? I mean, sure. Because we can. And presumably, upon completing this encounter with this Nilfgaardian overrun city, we might get a fair bit of coins after that. So perhaps that can be a key point for us to load up on maybe enough coins to make one of those upgrades we were talking about. But it does seem as though, based on what we were saying earlier, that perhaps perhaps it is going to be the most difficult to get wood in this area, even more so than coin, so all the more reason for us to prioritize wood acquisition over everything else at the moment. So let's do this trade now that we should be able to afford it. It is 500, right? I know we went back and forth for it, but yeah. So, like, I mean, it looks crazy. It looks like a terrible deal. And maybe you can make the case that long-term, if we can eventually make it out of Edirn, where maybe wood suddenly becomes more plentiful again, then if we can, you know, bide our time through that difficult spell, then suddenly we would say, that's a bad deal. But short-term, at least, for our most immediate needs, we are looking to acquire wood for some of those upgrades, then this is probably going to be one of our best ways to do it. So, alright, let's go for it. I assume / hope that will be worthwhile, at least short-term, to get some of those short-term upgrades. We are now almost completely broke from a gold standpoint, though, of course, but we will now absolutely go over to that Nilfgaardian-controlled city, or Nilfgaardian-attacked city, and we'll see what happens there. We are on high morale after talking to those villagers and, well, killing that Nilfgaardian dude, so that could help. But here goes nothing. Let's see what the deal is.
As Meve neared Gatberg, her eyes were drawn at once to the black pennants flying over its palisades. Nilfgaard's pennants. Her scouts found the city's buildings intact, its streets unstained by blood. Black-clad soldiers could be seen guarding storehouses holding loot pillaged from nearby settlements. Curiously, these soldiers were very few in number.
That is odd. I mean, it sounds like they took over the village without, or city really, without any resistance. Like, the villagers just said, yeah, sure, we'll let you take us over. And so was this the city that we heard those villagers talking about? I forget the name of the village or the city that they were mentioning, but it certainly could be. It does seem like that description that we heard from the villagers is aligning with what we're seeing here.
The gates stand open. Clearly the Imperials expect no attack, giving us the element of surprise.
Unless it's a
Take back the
trap.
city
And make off with the gold.
Gascon finished.
We'd like some of that, yes. I mean, we gotta attack the city, right? Alright, maybe it's some kind of trap. True. But we were just saying how we could really use all the resources we can get at this point, and this place is currently controlled by the Nilfgaardians. And so I think we've got to take that risk to try to win back the city, and hopefully win back some resources as well.
Meve hated Nilfgaard and needed gold to maintain her army.
Exactly.
Two very good reasons to attack Gatberg.
Thank you.
Her decision made, she ordered her men to prepare for battle. Now the invaders would have to try their hand at defending.
Larven! Essay to Navane!
Alright, here we go. Let's see what the deal is. It is a shortened battle, so just one round with special rules. Let's see. The queen had feared her soldiers would not court death for the sake of an Edirnian city. It's true, it's technically not our city, it's one of our ally cities. After all, why risk one's neck for a neighbor's home when you have yet to reclaim your own? True. Nonetheless, Meve's infantry fought ferociously, never breaking. Good. In the face of Nilfgaardian's onslaught, the trifling differences among Lyrians, Temerians, and Kaedwenis no longer mattered. Ultimately, they were people of the north, and they must answer each other's call. Hints. Attack weaker units. Okay. So we know there are some kind of special rules. We don't know what they are just yet, but let's try to remember that, of course. Let's start the battle. Okay, so only one round. Bear that in mind. And before we talk about which cards we want to have in our hand, let's see if we can figure out what the deal is here. Visiting Ambassador. Order strengthen all allies by 1. Okay. But we don't otherwise have a lot of information to go off here, unfortunately. So, I mean, given how it was saying target weak enemies, I assume we're looking for primarily damage, and then that might mean cards like the Lyrian Scytheman that are purely boosting ourselves might be less ideal. So, hard to say definitively, but think with our limited information here, we try to get rid of cards like those Scythemen. And we do have a lot of them, obviously. Move 3 cards to the other row on the... and if anywhere units, damage them by 2. It's some damage for sure. And bear in mind that whenever a card is moved, Gascon does get stronger. So there is a synergy there. And then we have some damage from the Straves Cavalry. That much is true. The Alchemist... This is hard to predict how useful this is going to be. I mean, given how it said target weak units, that suggests that there may be a pretty big difference between the weaker units and the stronger units. So if we can use the Alchemist to set the power of some of the stronger units, to instead be the power of some of the weaker units, and that could be really effective. But that feels like that's a pretty big risk to take when we just really don't know what to expect. That's pretty speculative. So let's get rid of you, and again, try not to go with the Scythemen. I think more Strays Cavalry, probably a good idea to maximize the damage. Then again, it is a card that you want to play early in a round to maximize the amount of damage, so, you know, if we load up on a whole bunch of them, then eventually we're going to be playing one near the end of the round. It's not going to have a lot of time to deal a lot of damage, so that's maybe not as ideal. The other thing is, usually Decoy is quite good, but do we have a good card to play it with? We could use it on the Strays Cavalry to mark another unit. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that's a huge deal. Use it on the Stray Slinger to move more units and deal a little bit more damage in the process. Also, decent. Not amazing. At least, may not be amazing. Again, we don't really know what we're going up against here at the moment. But, I guess maybe we stick with this. Just see if there's any obvious cards we'd like to have in our hand here that we don't currently have. Like an Infiltrator, maybe. Gives us some more points. I think we do want to avoid the Scythemen, as I was saying, but Strays Bomber to set a row on fire could definitely be helpful as well. It's less targeted, that damage, because it's just randomly may or may not damage units in a row, and going to be hard to specifically go after the weaker units in that case. You could potentially try to pick up one of those, but I think we stick with this, because we only have, what, 2 redraws left, and I'd rather not accidentally get more of the Scythemen instead. We should be through most of them at this point, but just in case, let's stick with this.
Let's show them they're wrong.
Alright.
152, 154.
And they'll use their order building to strengthen it. They have a cooldown on that? Or do they just do it every turn? It looks like they may just do that every turn. So after 2 allies appear, boost up by 6 and gain resilience. Okay, the resilience shouldn't matter. That would usually allow them to remain on the board in between rounds, but since this is only 1 round, that doesn't matter here. So this is certainly, it would appear, one of their weaker units. So I do think this could be a good unit to try to hit with some of our damage. And as we were saying, Strays Cavalry, definitely a card we want to play as early as possible to get as much damage as possible out of the marks. Let's go for that.
The chase is on!
And then I assume we're going leader ability here. I mean, it is kind of overkill when there's only 1 unit out there, but we obviously want to get it off cooldown as quickly as possible. So we'll go for this, and once you do that, I mean, it's kind of close. Kind of close. Going down once you factor in the damage from the mark that the Strays put on. Let's see. I assume they're going to get a lot of those guys out there. Ooh, the mark does deal damage after they play their card, though. So notably, that means that unless we were to play a Stray Slinger, we would not be able to destroy you before this ability triggers. And 6 is... it's not a ton of damage, but it is certainly some. So I feel like it may be worth doing this. It may be worth doing that to make sure that we take out the recruit before he gets that buff. I mean, as the game was saying, make a point to taking out the weak units, so I think we go for it. Huzzah! Avoid damaging ourselves! Very close! Okay, and I think, you know, unless we're moving this back, that's gonna be all we can do there. And you got the mark passed over to you. Does help.
No signs of fighting. These Horsens must have opened the gates for the Blacklads.
Let's see, then you play the Black Infantry Arbalist, damage an enemy by 2 whenever an ally appears, gain 1 charge. So this is definitely stronger. Not sure if it yet qualifies as a strong unit, period. But the tricky thing here is I'm not sure we're going to have enough damage to take you out quickly enough. What we would love here would be, don't think we have any at the moment, the Lyria and Rivia that we used to have, of course. But yeah, at this rate, I don't think we have a way of getting rid of you before this ability triggers, because our leader ability is currently on cooldown, so no damage from that. You will take 1 damage at the end of your next turn from that mark, but you're going to be able to play a unit before you do that. I mean, we could play another Stray Slinger for 2 more damage, but that's obviously not enough, and we'd ideally play that when you have 3 units out there, so we can damage all of them and get the maximum amount of damage out of the Slinger. So, in that case, I think we play another Stray's Cavalry, and mark this Black Infantry Arbalist as well, and just get some more damage happening here. Not going to be enough to take anything out on this turn, but we shall see.
Wise choice.
Yeah, so there is the resilience, the boost on this guy. The marks will continue to deal damage. And so these guys will continue to get stronger, or at least will continue to deal damage whenever they play additional units, so definitely a card we would like to get rid of. Now that they do have 3 units out there, there is perhaps more reason to go with the Stray Slinger. Move all 3 of them, and that would mean 2 damage to all of them, get you down to 5, then at the end of your turn you'd be down to 6, which is obviously still not enough to destroy you altogether. So I feel like we may be once again looking at just maximize the number of marks. It long term does equate to a lot of damage. It's just that once one of these cards goes down, it's going to pass a mark to another unit, and I mean, I guess they'll have enough units out there that we aren't going to run out of things to mark, but that's, I suppose, theoretically possible that could happen. You also have Lyrian Horn that could deal a little bit of damage as well, but I don't think that's yet been much of a factor. So, also remind me... Oh yeah, the order is just to move this. So, it is giving us a bit of passive damage whenever they play cards, so that is helpful, but I think we're definitely still marking here on you. And I don't know. I mean, we took down the first unit, yes. But they're starting to accumulate a lot more units, and it's starting to become a lot more difficult to get rid of these units. So, will this be sufficient? I'm not sure if it will be. So now that we have all these marks, do we start to look at the Slinger again? We still have 1 more turn before our leader ability. Let's see, that'd be 4 damage. So if we could... Between damage from our leader ability on our next turn and the damage from the mark, that's almost enough to take you out without any additional assistance needed from the Stray Slinger. So we might want to just rely on that and, once again, just get as many marks out there as quickly as possible. Get as much possible damage out of those marks as we can. Obviously, our units are getting... What the heck? Pretty damaged. That's a big unit. Oh. Oh. Now I understand why you're supposed to take down the little units. That makes a lot more sense. Okay. We found the boss indeed. Also, notably has the immune status, which means we can't specifically target him. We'll have to focus on hitting all these guys. We do have our leader ability back. And notably, we have 2 enemies that are on the same amount of power here. 7 for both the Black Infantry Arbalists, so it is probably preferable to get rid of them. It does mean that we will not take down this Black Infantry Arbalist quite as quickly, but we should still be able to mark him if we take down some of these guys. So I think either way, we're probably looking to use our leader ability here. Gets you guys down to 3. So then, if we were to say, go with the Slinger and hit probably you 3, then you guys would die at the end of their next turn from the mark. That would mean we pass one mark to you and then one mark to whatever unit they play next. I think that should still work. Assuming that you can actually get the marks, which I believe should be the case. Don't think there's anything to suggest that that would be impossible. But it's a boss, so I mean, who knows? And I assume you will play a unit, which we're kind of relying on. Even though that would normally be a bad thing. There we go. So now all their ones should get destroyed by those marks. Excuse me? Is there a reason why they didn't get damaged? Oh, we need... Notably... Oh! Honestly, didn't even think about this. I'm not even sure I realized this was the case. I thought the mark just automatically dealt the damage when the unit had the status. I did not realize you actually needed the Stray's cavalry to survive in order for that to work. Okay, that's kind of important. Now we can still destroy at least these guys if we are to use, say, Lyria and Horn. Now that might have been a reason to use Decoy. Get one of these Stray's cavalry back into our hand, replay it. I think we're probably, at this point, we can Stray Slinger and destroy you two, almost destroy you. And then the thing is that overkill when we know Lyria and Horn is already enough damage to take you out, almost enough damage to take you out? I wonder if maybe we go a little bit with a longer term approach. Go with Slinger against you three. And although that doesn't immediately kill anyone, it gets 3 cards in killing range for the Lyria and Horn. Might be preferable. Might be preferable. I think we try that.
Have it the white of an eye from half a league away.
I am now increasingly concerned, since, as I was saying, I did not realize we needed those other units to stay alive. You can't see it right now, but I'm cringing so hard. That was just such a slap to the face. Oh, really? Really? Ooh, that hurts. That hurts so much, especially because it is a specific counter to the specific thing that we did last turn, where we deliberately delayed destroying those cards. So that just feels like quite the punishment. Quite the punishment for what we just did. Of course, no way of knowing they were going to do that, but man, in hindsight, of course, it was just terrible. Absolutely terrible play. Let's see. In which case, now Lyrian Horde suddenly is not capable of destroying these cards, so I mean, we probably lost from that one play alone. Again, no way of knowing it at the time, but okay. Good to know if we are to try this encounter again, that that is something to bear in mind for sure. I think what we're looking at here is, I mean, we don't really have many options, but to say, decoy a slinger, replay it, deal some damage that way, and then, I mean, we might not have enough damage to take out any of these guys, really. Let's see, so, bring you back. But yeah, of course, we're learning here. We learned they can boost their cards when perhaps we least expected it. We learned that we actually do need to keep these Stray's cavalry on the board, and that could have been reason to play Lyrian Horn a little bit earlier as well, or like I said, to decoy to bring one of them back into our hand, make sure we had at least one of them alive. But, whew. Okay, so now I think we replay the Stray Slinger, move some other cards around, whichever ones have the most damage on them, and just try to get something in killing range. I mean, let's see, I think what we're gonna look to do is if we play you, we're gonna want to actually not hit what the lowest cards are. We're gonna want to hit these Black Infantry Arbalists. We're gonna lower them down to 4, and then as long as they don't have any additional sources of boosting or healing, we could then think on our last turn we'll have just enough time to use one more round of our leader ability. Hoping. That was the reason why I did that, was to get as many of these cards on the same amount of power as possible and get them all in killing range of our leader ability, so we can take them all out. Yeah.
Oh.
Don't give me your sassy... Oh. So that's the best you can do, Lids? I mean, we're going in blind here. It is pretty significant that that's the case this time around. So, we could either go Gascon, or we could go Lyria and Horn. And Gascon does not have any additional sources of boosting. So, you know, there's no real reason to hold on to him here. I think we probably do play him now unless we are concerned about the Arbalest having enough damage to destroy a stray slinger or two, in which case we have Furious that we're going to boost with Lyria and Horn. So, I mean, I think we probably do go that route in that case, because you have 3 of these guys, so you're likely to destroy 1, if not 2 of these on your next turn, and then that's 4 fewer points for Lyria and Horn. Means we're not getting Gascon out there for 2 more points, but on net still means we're saving more points by playing this now. So let's do this. Means these guys certainly are low enough that we could use our leader ability to take them out, unless you have another source of boosting or healing. So we're going to find out.
Off to the front yet again.
So there's the damage we were expecting. So, well, all comes down to Gascon and our leader ability here. I don't think it's going to be enough, but as I said,
Coin never stinks, no matter how rank the pouch.
we've learned a lot. See, this is the big play, the big finisher. I doubt it's enough. It does hurt you a lot, but as we're seeing here, I mean, we can move you, but that does technically power up Gascon a little bit, so, I mean, that was something, but as we're seeing here, I mean, we made a recovery, but that's good to know that after taking down 3 of their units, Nilfgaardian Commandant went down to about 30 power. That was with a little bit of damage from one of our cards as well, coming from Commander's Horn. But, okay, so we're definitely going to lose here. But we've learned some valuable lessons, because we took a lot of our damage for granted. We could have destroyed 3 of those guys much sooner, but we opted not to. So, got a little bit greedy. Let's restart. I think we do a lot better this time. It means that if we do have some people that are low, we want to make sure that we take them out quickly. And don't get too clever. And I think we were right that Strays Cavalry is not a bad card, but we may not want to have quite as many as we had last time. We did not have any Strays Bombers last time. That definitely, I think, would be a helpful card to have, so I like that. I think, as we were saying, Lyrian Scytheman, probably not the card to use here. Strays Infiltrator. If we can play this next to their ginormous boss... Let's see, but, Restraint, is that the one that means, yeah, I can't target bosses. So, means that really it's not going to be able to do that. Same thing with the Alchemist's ability. I assume that when it says Restraint, it means, like, no way, shape, or form can this ability hit bosses. Like, well, yeah, this one, there's no way this would work, but I guess I'm talking about, like, Strays Infiltrator, like, you're not clicking on the boss, you're putting a unit next to the boss. Does that still count as targeting the boss? Does that mean yeah, like, why would it say Restraint if that wasn't going to prevent you from playing it next to bosses and getting that benefit? So, I think in that case we really want to get rid of both of these guys. Gascon, he's helpful, especially if we have a bunch of the slingers, which we don't have as many this time. But he was our biggest unit last time for sure. Also, I thought in a previous fight, we, after restarting, no longer had the bonus from high morale, whereas we definitely do this time, so I'm a little bit surprised by that. Yeah, we don't want the Scytheman, though. Okay, another Stray Slinger is good. I think this might be the combo we're looking for. And as we were saying before, earlier Lyria and Horn, potentially earlier Decoy to try to save one of our Strays Cavalry from actually getting removed could also be helpful. Because we lost all of our damage from our marks when we invested pretty heavily in that. So I think we probably keep this. Key difference probably being our bombers. So let's go for this.
Feel at home here, the Nilfgaardians. Let's show them they're wrong.
We certainly have a much better idea of what to expect here. But, oh. Wait, we go first last time? suppose we can set a row on fire, and it doesn't matter when we do that. We can preemptively do it, because I was going to say, like, the slingers obviously don't have targets. The cavalry don't have targets either. Gascon, I mean, does work, whether he's in our hand on the battlefield. So we could theoretically play him first as well. I suppose that's not a terrible option. But I think we just go with the preemptive fire.
Watch your heads!
And then we have another one we can use to set the other row on fire. So that's the perfect amount.
Scrubbing duty
Of course,
again?
your first card gets played in the other row. Do they only use that once? I did notice the animations, but I don't think we saw them ever strengthen again. I mean, all allies, I think, technically does include cards in their hand and deck as well. But, okay, so, in some ways, although this guy is vulnerable now, that was one unit that we were able to take care of very quickly and easily in our previous attempt. But we took him out so quickly that it was before their Commandant showed up, and that was a missed opportunity to remove a bunch of power on that Commandant. So we might actually want to deliberately take it a little bit slower here at the very beginning. And put the fire over here as well, even if it may not necessarily be the most efficient way to damage this one unit. Also, I kind of forgot about our leader building.
No
But,
signs of fighting. These Horsons must have opened the gates for the Black Lads.
But as it turns out, both of these cards are now on 6 power, which is nice. It does mean probably one fewer round of leader building at the end of this, but, ooh. Do we do it now? I think we do. I think we still do. Can't get too clever with it, I don't think. Otherwise, the lack of time we have to do all of our leader abilities is going to start to add up. Like, I think we have functionally lost one round of leader ability. Really would have liked for the Commandant to have showed up before we destroyed that. But, okay, so these guys are going to have enough damage to destroy some of our units if we're not careful. So, I think we probably do market. Yes. Although,
We'll catch 'em all!
we do have the fire to help us deal more damage. That should help. But, have to be careful with that. We know more than we're going to show up,
Wise choice.
as we're seeing here. Fortunately, though, they're targeting the bombers, which doesn't really matter. They've already done their thing. Obviously, any unit they hit is going to lower our score, yes, but the other thing we can do is, I don't remember exactly which turn they played their Commandant on, but if we are to go for Slinger now, we can move the 3 enemy units that there are and lower this guy down to 1 power, which would be enough at the end of their turn to take it out, which may be worth doing. I think it's almost certainly worth doing.
That bit the white of an eye from our fully
At the very least, we'll reduce the amount of damage they'll be able to deal. I'm hoping they play the Commandant here. We want to be able to damage that as quickly as possible. That is not it, though. But we are certainly having better luck getting rid of some of their smaller units. So that should slow down the rate at which they can get rid of our cards. So now this recruit is going to get destroyed at the end of their next turn. So that's good. This Black Infantry Arbalist is not that far away from getting destroyed, especially if we are considering playing another one of our Slingers. Might even opt to go with Gascon here. Remember, like, is it going to be exactly the same order of operations they did last time in terms of, like, they play the Commandant on turn 5 or 6 or whatever it was, and then on the next turn they play their Thunderbolt or whatever it was to boost their 3 of their units, or units that have the same name, because that would be good to know exactly when that's going to happen, because as I was saying, ideally we would start destroying these units as soon as the Commandant comes out, because actually if we don't have any units to destroy and that card comes down, then we're not going to have very many ways to actually weaken it, and it has so much starting power that that's going to outscore us by itself. So that's why I think we deliberately play Gascon here, because he is not going to immediately damage anything.
Wait, you're serious?
And we are deliberately trying to slow down our damage a bit here, until they play the Commandant, which I'm hoping, yes, comes down now. So that's good timing, because that recruit should get destroyed now. Weakening that Commandant, great. And now we are to go with the Slinger, we can't target the Commandant, unfortunately. We can move these guys, and they may be about to use that healing ability, which means that, means that even if we're damaging this by 1 at the end of their turn, they may still be able to heal it back up, which would be unfortunate. That would be unfortunate. But, I mean, we don't really have any alternatives here, so I think we're going for it. And since we can't target that Commandant with our last one, we'll put it on the Manticore Trophy, I suppose. So we're really hoping that they wait 1 more turn before they use that boosting ability, so we can get rid of 1 more of these Black Infantry Arbalists before they do all that healing. Then we can weaken the Commandant a little bit more, but I'm skeptical. I suppose the fire could have also hit it. Ooh, we lucked out. Yup. You draw a card from this? Spawn a random potion in your hand. I suppose so, but okay, there is 1 more card getting destroyed. That's big. That's big. So, I think the card we saw them use last time did specifically boost every copy of a specific unit, and it was strong because we had like 2 or 3 Black Infantry Arbalists that were on death's door that they healed up. So if they only have 1 of each type of unit, then that's going to be significantly less powerful. Also, we can use our leader ability to destroy you right now, which would be quite nice. And given what we've learned, I think that is probably worth doing unless we have a way to set you up to also get damaged by it. But I don't think we do, because we need 3 damage on you specifically. And this is 2, but it would hit you as well, and that's overkill damage on you. This would hit both of you. So, I mean, either way, it's like we're gonna not have enough targets for this Slinger once again. So, I suppose we can play you now. Yeah, we actually should play you now. Move this Black Infantry Arbalist, because even if it's overkill damage, getting a little bit more movement does boost Gascon a little bit more. So we might as well do that before we take you out with our leader ability. So let's do that.
Thing about slings,
Once again, we'll move the trophy. Then we'll use our leader ability. It will be overkill damage. Yes, I mean, you could potentially make the case for hitting this Vikavaro Novice, because as we were saying, between the fire and the damage from the mark, that could potentially be enough to destroy either of those cards, certainly by the end of their turn. But again, because we're expecting for them to do that boost, we may not have that luxury of being that picky. I'm expecting for them to likely play it on their next turn. So let's see if this is it right here. It could be.
Off to the front.
No, it isn't. I mean, there's a chance they aren't going to play it. No, but didn't they? They got a potion in their hand from that Vikavaro Novice, didn't they? So I think what we do now is we could Lyrian Horn to remove that Vikavaro Novice. That's very tempting again. I'm assuming that the potion that they put in their hand was that potion that gave them the boost last time. So I'd like to take you out before you can heal it, which would mean Lyrian Horn would be a way to guarantee we can do that. Otherwise, decoy, get a Slinger back, replay it, and then move you and damage you that way. Yes, that can work, but it takes a turn longer because it's 1 turn to decoy, get you back in her hand, and only on our next turn would we be able to replay you. So I think we do go with Lyrian Horn here. It's a little bit overkill because there aren't as many units to damage as we might like, but I think we go for it. It's the safe option for sure. And that weakens the Commandant further. I mean, at this point, or at the very beginning when it had all that power, 25% was a big amount. Now at this point, 25% is not a huge deal, but we have a pretty sizable lead, dare I say. But these guys do get stronger the more than they play, so that's a little bit concerning. Let's see, when it comes to who we would prefer to bring back with decoy, I think the answer is the Slingers. Because we can continue to damage these guys by 2, and move this guy if we don't have quite enough targets. We obviously can't target you, but I think it's certainly this late on in the match that's going to be preferable to replaying Stray's Cavalry. And Gascon, doesn't matter if he's on the board or in our hand, either way he's providing the same amount of value. So I think it's definitely going to be the Stray Slinger here. We are We're gonna lose the boost that it's acquired. How did it acquire that? Come to think of it. Oh, from the card we just played, the Lyrian Horde. So we're gonna lose 3 points worth of boost, but we're gonna gain at least 4, maybe 6 points from damage, and also the boost for Gascon. So it is still worth it. It's not a huge net gain, but we're gonna go for it. At this point, the fire may be our biggest source of damage. And the concerning part is, now that they have 3 of these Darelin foot soldiers here, that last card, I think is, I mean, it's got to be the potion. The potion that they drew with their Novice. As for whether it's exactly the same potion that they used last time, or something entirely different, not entirely sure, but I imagine it probably is, which means it's going to boost all these guys. So despite us having a lead here, it's going to be close. I think it's going to be quite close. So obviously we're moving all those to damage them, but it's not going to be enough to take any of them out. So they will definitely all receive a boost from this card, or at least we highly suspect that to be the case. Gascon did get a boost from all the movement, and we'll get a little bit more from this as well. But is that going to be enough? We have a 21-point lead here. And with the fire, deals a tiny bit more damage. There's the boost. It's actually just a pure 10 boost. It's not enough for them, so we will take the win. There you have it. A little bit different that time around, but we definitely learned from our first attempt.
The Battle of Gatberg ended in Meve's victory, much to its inhabitants' displeasure. While she examined the Nilfgaardian storehouses,
the citizens as well?
Mayor, an elderly gentleman with a walrus moustache, requested a private audience.
Your Grace, I am old. Kill me, you'll merely save my gout the trouble. So I'll be frank. You've but few men. You'll not spare a one to defend the city. When you ride off, the Imperials will retake Gatberg, peer into their looted storehouses, and seek revenge. You will be far off, while we shall be oh so terribly near.
The old man creaked down onto his knees and gripped the hem of the Queen's coat with knobby fingers.
Your Majesty, I beg you, leave the gold, or the streets of Gatberg will flow with the blood of our women and children.
Oh, okay. So this is interesting. Did not see this one coming. Sounds like what he's saying is basically, hey, the Nilfgaardians attacked us. We had they arrived. We had no way to defend ourselves, so we just accepted our fate and allowed them to take over. Here you are defeating those Nilfgaardians, but if you take our gold and leave, then suddenly there's, once again, no one to defend us. The Nilfgaardians are going to waltz right on back in, retake the city, and you're not going to be here to defend us anymore. We're not going to even have any gold to, support ourselves in any way. So you're basically just setting history to repeat itself. Whereas, if we leave that gold, I suppose, maybe they could use that to fund some kind of defense to defend themselves against the Nilfgaardians, although obviously that didn't work in the past. Unless you are actually using gold that the Nilfgaardians gave you, so you've only acquired it since having been taken over by the Nilfgaardians, and so on the second round, you will have more resources to defend yourself. And that would be the only way you would have any better chances of succeeding against the Nilfgaardians than you had the first time. Obviously, the first time, it didn't work. So I feel like your logic here is a little bit flawed. Basically, my point is, if you couldn't fend off the Nilfgaardians the first time, then you aren't going to be able to fend them off the second time, regardless of whether we take or leave the gold.
Meve contemplated what to make of the fellow. Should he be praised for his forethought and concern for his townsmen, or condemned for cowardice and insolence? Black Rayla, however, had no such doubts.
Traitors all. Small wonder the town's untouched. Must have opened the gates wide for the southern scum. Now they want us to let them fill their pockets with plundered gold.
Plundered gold, you say? So perhaps it is from the Nilfgaardians? So, my first impression, based on how my understanding was that, they just had a little bit of gold, and they didn't use it, or at least didn't use it successfully, to fend off the Nilfgaardians the first time, so why would we think they do any better the second time around? They failed first time, same set of circumstances, they're going to fail the second time as well. in which case it doesn't matter if we take the gold or leave the gold, they're going to fail. However, if they didn't have the gold the first time, so they couldn't fund any form of defense, so they lost the Nilfgaardians, but on the second time round, meaning, after we leave, they can use the gold that they acquired from those Nilfgaardians, then suddenly they have more gold than they had the first time. Then perhaps that means that gold could be the difference between them being able to fund some form of defense that could successfully fight off the Nilfgaardians, whereas they couldn't do that previously. So, maybe. Then again, I do still think that it did stand out a lot, as Black Rayla just said, that nobody in this city was harmed at all when the enemy showed up. And we've seen what happens when the Nilfgaardians show up. Usually, entire fields are burned, everyone is killed or enslaved. So that does certainly seem very odd that everyone seemed to walk away unscathed. Does strongly suggest that they were very supportive, or at least very quick to welcome in those Nilfgaardians. So, they do certainly seem like they could very well be traitors. So, I think I do lean with Black Rayla here, and that's just a little too sus, a little too suspicious that the Nilfgaardians didn't come in and absolutely slaughter them and just take over the city, because that is usually what happens. And since that wasn't the case this time, sounds like they were doing some kind of cooperation with the Nilfgaardians, and that means they were traitors. So in that case, gold is ours.
After a moment's hesitation, Meve had her soldiers load the stolen gold onto their wagons.
As you pointed out, Mayor, my army is small, which is why I need gold to expand it.
The mayor said nothing.
I mean,
He bowed
suppose
to the queen,
it's also
then
only
hobbled off,
172
leaning
gold,
heavily
which is
on
not
his
very
cane,
much.
as if this short exchange had cost him years of life.
Would we have acted differently had we known that it wasn't going to be a game-changing amount of gold? How much we really expected, but alas. I think the question was just mostly not how much gold did they have, but just did they deserve to have it after seemingly betraying us? And we said, well, it does look an awful lot like they did betray us, and so in that case, let's not fund the Nilfgaardians. Let's take that monies for ourselves. But with that being said, I think this is a good place for us to wrap up here, so thank you all for watching, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.